Hi everyone, we are in our last week of the weekly chats, and it's the last week of the MOOC. But as I've mentioned in the emails and the announcements, keep in mind the content stays open for 4 weeks. So if you're running a little bit behind or got a late start with a course, you're still going to have enough time to engage in the activities. And I will still be monitoring your comments on the discussion boards and providing feedback periodically. So we hope you continue to stay engaged in the course. But this is the last week for the chats, and this week we are talking about meal preparation and planning based on our week 5 content. So the first question I'm addressing says, I have a poor appetite, would love to improve my relationship with food. Adding variety and color have helped, but I live alone and eating alone is boring. And I understand that. I hear that a lot of times from my own clients because food has a social aspect to it. And when we share it with others and in social environments, food becomes more enjoyable. And that is a challenge when you live by yourself. How do you maintain still that positive relationship with food so that you look forward to the meal planning and preparation? So here's a few ideas. Set the table just as if you were having company come over. Don't go to your chair or the couch with a paper plate or just a bowl. You still want to make it an enjoyable environment. So put out nice dinnerware, put out napkins, maybe consider putting candle on your table. Play some background music so that you set the mood for to make your mealtime more appealing. Try new recipes. I asked Diana, your other instructor for the course, if there were any websites she would recommend because she spends more time looking for these types of websites online than I do. And she recommended foodily.com. That's FOODILY.com. And she said you can find new recipes with ingredients that you like to use. You can customize it. And I checked it out, and I saw a couple right off the bat that I thought that would be fun to try. And so since we're encouraging you to try new recipes in order to improve the experience of eating alone, I also thought about why not make a notebook, kind of like a family cookbook. And there are programs you can do these online even for free. That as you try new recipes and you enjoy them, make notes and then start collecting these recipes and put them together. You may have friends and family that would really enjoy receiving that information from you. And so that makes cooking and eating more of an adventure for you. The next question says, I work 60 hours a week. I hate it when somebody has to work 60 hours a week because I know how stressful that is, but I also know that sometimes we just have no choice. So I do sympathize with all of you that work 60 hours or more a week. So I'm limited on time and energy, which is understandable. She said, or he said, do you have any pointers on preparing ahead for quick meal preparations? So whenever you do have any time, maybe you got a day off for vacation, a national holiday, or maybe your weekend ended up with a little more time. So whenever you have time, go ahead and make a meal, but make enough for a few meals worth so that you can package and freeze the leftovers, and that way you can pull them out and enjoy them at another time. Whenever you're prepping for one meal, there were a lot of good tips in week 5 about prepping for several meals. Wash, cut, cook your vegetables, boil your eggs, cook your meats, make a large pot of rice, quinoa, pasta, and have all those ingredients in your fridge so that when you're ready to make a meal, all you have to do is toss them together, season them a little bit, and heat them up. You can also portion out healthy snacks, so that if you really don't have time for a meal, maybe you can pull out some items that have been individually portioned to kind of make a meal. And then also consider making a date. Invite a friend or a family member over, maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, to prep ingredients and to do freezer meals for you. If you make meal preparation more of a social event, then it's not going to seem so burdensome to fix the meals when you're really short on time. The next question says, I find it hard to come up with interesting ideas for lunches. I tend to revert back to bread and cheese when I'm in a hurry. So what are healthy and quick suggestions for lunches? And bread and cheese can actually be a good lunch, particularly if you would add some vegetables to it, some fresh vegetables or maybe some fresh fruits. But some other ideas for quick lunches, think about salads. If you've got the basic ingredients in your fridge, you've got your lettuce or whatever greens you want to use, maybe some fresh spinach. If you've already got vegetables diced up, cucumbers, tomatoes, mushrooms, onions, carrots, maybe some apple or orange slices or apples diced up. I love using dried cranberries and dried blueberries into salad. You can already have chicken grilled up or maybe some leftover steak or beef strips, even tuna fish, which is easy to keep on hand. Also have some nuts around like pistachios, peanuts, walnuts, pecans, things that you could just throw into a salad. And then you could just gather up all the ingredients, even throw them together the night before and have them in a container so that all you have to do is grab them and go. Don't forget about leftovers, because we're encouraging you, if you're short on time, to cook meals to cover multiple meals, so you can always use your leftovers. One of my favorite go-tos when I'm really short on time is I'll do a whole wheat bagel and I'll toast it, and then I'll put just 1 tablespoon of peanut butter and some raisins on it, throw it in a Ziploc baggie, and off I go. And I love that. That's my favorite. You can also make sandwiches the night before. Again, just have some different things on hand, like maybe some whole wheat bread, some flat breads. There's some great high fiber pita pockets that you can use. You can have different kinds of meats on hand that you've either cooked up in advance or had in the freezer that you just need to thaw out. Have a variety of cheeses, Swiss cheese, feta cheese, mozzarella slices. And again, all you have to do is make your sandwich the night before, throw some avocado slices on, tomatoes and things like that, and just grab it in the morning. And just out of curiosity, I just put into a Google search quick and healthy lunch ideas, and a lot of options, a lot of good websites popped up. So if nothing else, just do a Google search, and I think you'll find some ideas that you like, because it's using foods that you would tend to eat. The next question, how do I use coconut oil in recipes, or how do I cook with coconut oil? Coconut oil is really popular right now. If you Google that, you'll see a lot of recipes of people telling you how they're using coconut oil. I just want to caution that coconut oil is high in saturated fat, and there's nothing wrong with some saturated fat in our diet, but if we eat too much of it, it may contribute to higher cholesterol levels and possibly raise our risk for heart disease. So be careful about the amount of coconut oil you might use. We want to encourage that you use a higher quantity of the mono and polyunsaturated fats, such as canola oil, cottonseed oil. But because of the fatty acid content of coconut oil, you can use it as a substitute 1-for-1 on anything that calls for butter. So whatever amount is called for butter in a recipe, the coconut fat or the coconut oil is going to substitute in the exact same amount. The next question, is there a safe recipe using cucumbers and peppers for a relish that does not add salt or sugar and also doesn't use a sugar substitute? I had to do a little digging on this one because I grew up in a family that did a lot of canning, but I always just followed my mom's instructions. I never really had to pay much attention to what I was doing. I was primarily the picker. I was the unpaid labor to get stuff out of the garden. So I wasn't actually fond of the canning process, knowing how much work was going to be involved. So I did find a handout put out by Colorado State University Extension. And basically what it said, that salt is not necessary for safe processing of home canned frozen fruits and vegetables except for pickled products. In order to safely preserve, using cucumbers, for example, you really do need salt. And they did in this handout, and let me look at the title of the handout in case you want to look it up and print it off online. It's through Colorado State University, Food Preservation Without Sugar or Salt. They did give 2 different recipes that used less salt than most recipes, and it was called reduced sodium sliced sweet pickles and sliced sweet dill pickles. And since I don't do canning and pickling, I went and looked at traditional recipes, and I saw that most of them would use 1 cup or more of salt for doing the pickling, and both of these recipes only used 1 tablespoon of canning or pickling salt. So I think you can find some recipes for reduced sodium, but it sounds like leaving the salt out altogether for pickling would not be a safe procedure. You can leave out the sugar. They said that really makes no difference in preserving the product. And you can also use a sugar substitute, but they did mention in this handout it may make the product a little mushier when you do that. The next question, we live in the country, so when we grocery shop once or twice a month, it's difficult to keep fruits and vegetables from going bad quickly, so how can we keep them longer? And you want to try to only buy as many fresh fruits and vegetables as you can eat before they actually do go bad. Some of them, like apples and oranges, and vegetables like carrots, are going to last longer than others, especially if you're keeping them refrigerated in the appropriate spot within your refrigerator and the temperatures. But Diana also recommended a second website. It's called eatbydate.com, EATBYDATE.com. And on this site, you will find information about which fruits and vegetables will last the longest. And you want to then will go bad the quickest and make sure those are the ones you're using the first few days. And she said this website will also tell you how to extend the shelf life of fresh produce. Now, another student in our course recommended an idea that my mom actually does, and it says to wrap your lettuce, spinach, celery, and onions in paper towels and put them in the fridge. And my mother does that with lettuce. Whenever she has it torn up, she'll put it in the bowl and put paper towels on the top of it, and then she turns the bowl upside down in the refrigerator. And that helps keep the vegetables a little crisper by keeping the moisture level controlled, and they tend to last a little longer. But then also don't forget that buying frozen fruits and vegetables is a very economical option, and we're going to talk about the nutrient quality in the next question. It says, I do grocery shopping and cooking by myself. Does using frozen vegetables or fruits change the nutrient composition? And this was a really good question, because we push all the time fresh fruits and vegetables, but sometimes that may not be your highest nutrient option. The best fresh fruits and vegetables in terms of nutrition quality are going to be the ones that you get locally at a farmer's market, because those have usually been picked at their ripest point. You're getting them from garden to your table usually within 2 to 3 days of when they were picked. That's when the nutrient quality is the highest. When you buy your fresh fruits and vegetables in the grocery store, if they were not locally grown, it likely took 10 to 14 days from the time they were removed from the growing field before they made it to the grocery store. And during that time, there has been some nutrient loss. So by comparison, when fruits and vegetables are frozen, they are usually frozen within a few hours of being picked, when the nutrient quality is still at a very high level. Now, there is a small amount of nutrients that are lost when they're processing them, preparing them for the freezing process, but it's a very minimal amount. So depending on how long it took for the fruits and vegetables to go from the field to your table, and then if they sit in your fridge for another 1 week, you may actually be consuming fruits and vegetables that might have a little less nutrition than what the frozen fruits and vegetables do. And in 1998, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration put out a report that said frozen produce will provide all the same essential nutrients and health benefits as the fresh products themselves. So we want you to consider that while we're constantly promoting fresh fruits and vegetables, keep in mind that frozen fruits and vegetables are great and very healthy and nutritious for you. In the summertime, I tend to go with my berries, for example. I like the fresh, but in the wintertime, when the price you can't hardly find them, I go to a lot of frozen vegetables and a lot of frozen fruits, and they're high nutrient quality. And the next question says, when planning my meals for the week, I realized that I'm eating too much protein. What happens if you're consuming more protein than the suggested portions per day? There are some dangers consuming too much protein, and it mainly relates to whether or not you are doing animal proteins. Animal proteins will typically have higher amounts of saturated fat, such as the skin on chicken, on turkey, the marbling in your beef. Egg yolks are higher in fat and some saturated fat. And if they are an animal product, they will always contain cholesterol, unless the product has had it removed, because cholesterol is produced by our liver, and only animals have liver. So that's why you'll never see broccoli that says 0 cholesterol. They can't say it's 0 cholesterol because it never had cholesterol to begin with, because it's not an animal product. So anytime you are doing animal proteins, you're going to be getting more saturated fat and cholesterol, which may raise your risk for heart disease. So we want you to be aware that that might be a danger with consuming excessive amounts of protein. And also, another aspect of high protein diets that we're not real sure about, this concern came up when the Atkins diet became so popular. Your kidneys have to process the extra protein as it goes through the metabolic processes. And we have a lot of nephrologists who are medical doctors focus on kidney health, and they say they're concerned about what's going to be happening 10 to 20 years from now. Are we going to be dealing with people who have kidney damage from a steady use of a high protein diet because we're placing more stress on the kidneys? We don't know. We don't have studies at this point that really tell us, but the speculation is out there. So if you're not really sure if the amount of protein that you're taking in is of a concern or not, using Super Tracker to put your food in will give you an idea of how much you're eating compared to what's recommended. But you may also want to consider working with a registered dietitian who can help you analyze your diet in relation to your current health, using your lab and your medical history, and then you would get a little bit better answer if the amount of protein you're taking in is a concern or not. We had a question about someone who is already exercising for 50 minutes a day. Is there any need for them to increase their exercise? And I say, wow, congratulations, 50 minutes a day is great. If that amount of exercise is allowing you to keep a healthy weight or even lose weight, if that's your goal, then just maintain. If it's working, you can stick with it. But you might want to vary your exercise. If your 50 minutes a day is just one type of exercise, we do know the body can get very conditioned, and then you may not be challenging it to the level that helps you maintain the weight that you're shooting for. So make sure you're looking at a variety of different exercises, including strengthening and then also cardiovascular and weight-bearing exercises as you're able to. And then the last question that I had says, why does Super Tracker recommend 1,600 calories for a person weighing 106 pounds when they calculated that their basic metabolic rate was 1,717 calories? And we're actually looking at a couple of different things here. Super Tracker, the 1,600 calorie recommendation would be based on what you put in. You have to enter how active you are, your height, your weight, your age, and what your weight loss goals are. And so Super Tracker is not reporting just strictly your basic metabolic rate. It's factoring in the energy needed to perform your activities of daily living, and if you indicated how active you were, it's including that also. Your basic metabolic rate is the amount of calories it would take for you to just lay in bed all day and do nothing. And so if you calculated in your activities of daily living, you would get a higher number. So my guess is that maybe in Super Tracker you indicated that you weren't very active, or maybe you wanted to lose some weight, and that might be why it's giving you a smaller number. But go back and look at what all you entered in, because that really influences what you get on Super Tracker. And there'll be slight variations just depending on what website you use, because they all use the basic same formulas, but they'll round up or they'll round down, and that's going to alter things a little bit. And going back to something I said earlier in the semester, when we started the MOOC, remember that these are all only estimates. We cannot be 100% precise on the recommendation for anyone. So use these as a starting point, track your food, and then based on the results you get, you'll know, do I need to increase or decrease based on what the calculation said. So that is all the questions we had for today, and I appreciate those of you that submitted questions and those of you that are watching the videos. This is kind of a fun way for me to interact with you as students. So I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have. I just want to mention that for most of us, cold weather has hit. It's going to make exercise more challenging. So go back to the activity module if you need to and review some of the ideas for exercising indoors and how to kind of mix up your routine a little bit. So stay warm, and again, thank you for participating in this course. It has been a lot of fun for us.